Hey folks, welcome to the Bass Shed Podcast. My name is Ryan Roberts. Welcome to episode 35 of the Bass Shed Podcast. My guest today is Uxia Martinez Botana. Uxia is a principal bassist in the Brussels Philharmonic, as well as she's had the principal chair in some other orchestras. She landed her first symphony gig at age 16. She started playing double bass at 6 years old. Man, it's crazy. Such a young age to start playing upright. It's a really cool story. And it was a great time talking to her. We talk about. We cover a lot of ground. This was a really long conversation, actually. I think all said and done, it was like maybe a little bit over 3 hours. So this is basically just the first half of the conversation, and I may release the back half of the conversation as another episode. If not, it will definitely all be up on YouTube. We cover a lot of ground. We talk about her role as a teacher and how she approaches teaching. And what else we talk about? We talk about the thing we really talk about is turning tragedy into art and how that even related to her career. I think those were the big takeaways for me, and that's we kind of get into a lot of the life and humanity of artistry and music. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk about all that with her, because she's got some really inspiring. She's got a very inspiring story, and I really liked hearing what she had to say. It was a fantastic talk. As always, I want to talk about D. Lakin Basses. Dan Lakin over at D. Lakin is building me the custom 5-string fretless. For those of you that may follow the Bass Shed on Instagram, maybe you saw the picture. There's some more information up at thebassshed.com about it. I'm honored to be a part of the D. Lakin family, and have a bass and have co-designed the bass with Dan and his building team, and be a part of the Inspired By series. So this is the Inspired By Ryan Roberts, and it's humbling to be a part of the bass players that are also have contributed design ideas and worked with Dan to create some basses. Really cool stuff. So definitely check out D. Lakin Basses. Shoot Dan an email. Tell him you're a friend of Ryan Roberts and the Bass Shed. And he is always happy to talk to anyone and everyone about basses and bass construction, and really get in touch with what the player is looking for. Him and I definitely went back and forth on some stuff, and he reached out to Bartolini for me because I had some preamp ideas, and Bartolini emailed me back and told me why they don't do what I was looking for, and it was all that stuff was really cool. I was looking for a sweepable mid knob on the bass, like a stack pot, so sweepable mids and then boost. And he told me why he doesn't do it, and it's some stuff like I don't think about. Like obviously they know that. They know what they're doing. They're fantastic. All those guys are fantastic at what they do. And it was great to really talk with them on a level of bass construction and design. It was really fun stuff. So check that out. Check out D. Lakin Basses. All right, getting back to the episode. This episode starts off with me not knowing how to pronounce her name. And she corrects me. And then we go from there. But I think it's funnier because the conversation had already been going for maybe 20 minutes or so. And then I finally dove in and I'm like, all right, I'm sorry about this, but I have no idea how to pronounce your first name. And I had it for a minute and then forgot and then screwed it up. So that's the backstory, and that's what you're being dropped into. So here's the wit, warmth, and artistry of Uxia Martinez Botana. Uxia. I still messed it up. Uxia. There it is. Uxia.
I think the accent is on the I, so Uxia.
Yeah, I'm from Arizona. I don't do accent marks. My name's Ryan Roberts. That's the most bland name ever. There's no accent there. I don't ever have to deal with those.
That's just
It's
hilarious.
so then every time I see one, I just get freaked out. It's like, what am I gonna do with this? What am I gonna do with this? How does this one go? I don't understand it.
uh, no, in Spanish we have plenty of accents.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And I never know. Like, I just have to apologize up front, like I did earlier when I was asking you how to say your name. Like, I don't know how this is gonna work out. I'm sorry in advance.
No, it's really fine. Don't worry.
Um, where we were just talking is learning about yourself through teaching. How has teaching taught you more about yourself and your own playing?
Like at the beginning when I was much younger, I thought like, oh, I don't want to teach. Like I want to play, blah blah blah. Like that sort of thing. But then later on, while I was studying still in Amsterdam Conservatorium here, I had a couple of colleagues from the jazz department. That's how I actually started my first experiences teaching. So I had a couple of colleagues in the jazz department that while I was still studying in Amsterdam, they would come and ask me if I could teach them bow technique or left hand technique because they wanted to learn something more from the classical world. And I would,
Yeah.
even if I was still a student really, but I would like do it because I was always very curious about the jazz world as well. I was going to their concerts and I always had this thing that I should also know a lot about jazz as well because I think it complements very well the classical. And I also think actually to my students in Barcelona and in Barenboim Academy, I also tell them that they have to learn jazz. It's so it's really so important for a classical player and Baroque as well, but jazz especially.
Really? Really?
Yeah. I
Okay.
think
See, I know jazz players think that about classical, where like to really get your technique together, make sure you're generating a sound properly, and with the solid technique and the use of the bow. And you can always tell the better jazz players
yeah,
that have spent their time with classical. But I've never heard a classical player kind of put the same emphasis on jazz. That's
I think
interesting.
so. I think so because it does open your mind a lot. I mean, it
Sure.
did open my mind a lot because I started to see everything I was practicing from Bach to Bottesini to other contemporary composers. You see things differently because you see the structure way different and I think in a way deeper way than you were doing it before as just a classical player. So I think there is a next level to really learn jazz as well together with classical, but I think that
Yeah.
it's underestimated in our system. I don't know very well how it's in America, but for example in Europe, maybe you can choose it as a minor subject, but it's never integrated in our system, in
Oh,
our
really?
teaching. Yeah, and I started this year. I started in Barcelona a program together with jazz and baroque as well, because I think a bass player should be 360 degrees. You
Yeah.
should know a little bit of baroque. You should know how it works with baroque, with gut strings, with that, and you should also know how jazz works, and all that should really make you a musician, not only a bass player, but like a
Sure.
360 degrees musician. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important for students. But going back, why I learned so much from teaching is because I had to start asking myself things. When you are young and you are studying, you don't ask yourself why you do it. You just want to achieve results, but you
Right.
don't really go deep thinking what you are truly doing. So when I started, which actually they were my own colleagues at the school, jazz colleagues, when I started to teach them, they would make questions to me, and I would think like, well, I never thought like how to do vibrato. I mean, it was just there. I started and I just wanted to get it, and I just went for it. But I never thought like how to explain, to somebody the mechanics of it. So
Sure.
like it really got me at some point. So I was still young, and I continue playing, and teaching really didn't cross my mind. But then, I don't know, I had other opportunities to do masterclass and other stuff with teaching, and I started to get really interested in how, the mind works while you play and how the mechanics work. And as I said, like, I had myself many teachers, some of them amazing bass players, famous bass players, some other less famous bass player. But like, I think it's so important to get a good teacher, really, but not only a great player, but like a good teacher, like someone who can really, analyze everything and tell you how, because also, each person is a different world. So that was a fascinating thing also for me, because one person would work in one way, another person would work in another way. So I think it has made me way richer as a musician and also as an instrumentalist, to dedicate a lot of time to teaching, not only to play in the orchestra and to do solo and to do the chamber music that I do as well, but really with special attention to teaching. And I think I've learned with them, with my students, so many things about myself that before I wasn't aware. For example, patience. I never been like a really patient Yeah, really. I never been like a really patient person. I actually, I am someone with, I don't like to sit too much. I don't like to be too much in one place. I don't like to, so I always have to be in constant movement for things, no? But no, they have taught me to be patient with them and with myself as well. Because I am not also the greatest patient person with myself either, many times. So it's something that they have given me this. And another thing that they have given me is to really understand that, each one of them has a different character. I think in the classical music, sometimes, if you don't show sort of a very tough strength of character, sometimes, I'm not saying always, but sometimes if you don't show that, you are eaten up, by the system. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, that I've seen it a couple of times.
In the school system or as a working professional, like the professional world system?
I think in the school system and also in the professional work. In both. I've seen it in both with many colleagues, actually, with a lot of people. And I think it's a taboo, actually, what I'm saying right now, but I don't mind saying it. But I think really that, especially because schools, they're preparing you for the outside world, and the outside world is not easy. And I think there is already that kind of competition thing, like very tough competition between students as well. So I think, when I started to teach, I realized that, you don't want to make them have a bad time with music, which is what sometimes I think the system lacks.
I think it's easy to burn out on it. You just get burnt out on school, but you love music, but you're burnt out on school.
Yeah, and that's because of the system, in my opinion.
Sure.
And that shouldn't be. And it's because we don't take care really of the psychological part. Teaching, many teachers, they don't really spend time on thinking how each student works, because probably there is like maybe too many. But the truth is, if you want to teach an instrument, if you want to teach someone not how to be only a bass player, but if you want to teach someone how to be a musician, you gotta have certain degree of empathy with them. and I think that our system for classical music, at least in Europe or what I have lived myself, it's focused too much that things gotta be one way, only that way, and if you don't follow that way, it's not good, you know.
Sure.
And that's the opposite of what music is. So it's a big controversial point, I think.
And now, do you see that in other aspects of the arts within school, or do you see that mainly just in the world of classical music?
I see it as well in other kind of arts outside of the classical music, but I see it more intense, like in a more harsh way in the classical music world. That I have to say, yeah. I think that really you can achieve great results, but with a healthy mindset. I think sometimes in many occasions, you achieve great results, but the process was not so healthy.
Right.
You know, because as you said, we have to follow traditions, and classical music is really, very, very, very stuck. Some schools are very stuck on the past. I'm sorry to say, but really, really old-fashioned traditions and all things that, you know. And I think that that's one of the points why we also sort of like lost public in the classical music world, because we are too much stuck on what worked 60 years ago. But I think that especially now with coronavirus, really, I think it's going to be a turning point as well for classical music, where we will have to. Yeah, I think so, because you know the industry has worked in a very systematic way for a long time, and that system hasn't been really changed for real for so many years. But I think we have arrived to the point where we can see. I could see it, you know, when I've been playing like in the orchestra for so many years as a principal bass, and I could see like our public is older. We did so many projects for attracting young people to the world of classical music. I mean, of course, it has to be also with education in high school and with integrating music in the life of people. That's also another part. But from our part, I think that we have maybe played in the past years, and I'm talking maybe the past 60 or 70 years, as, you know, a world for certain people and a certain group of people and a certain public. And I think that in the long run, in the very long run, it hasn't helped us at all. And there is too many stereotypes as well. Like, it's so difficult to get program as a soloist with double bass, for example.
Yeah. Right.
Why? But why? Because double bass, it hasn't been considered a noble instrument as it was considered noble the violin, the piano, or the cello. You understand what I mean? Like, of course.
Yeah, you don't think of it. Like nobody. I don't think the common person thinks of it as, you know, a strong lyrical instrument or something that's pretty or romantic or any of those things. Obviously, I think it is, but when normal people come on the double bass, like it's just kind of like the brute that's sitting in the back, just the big guy hanging out back there.
Yeah, exactly, and that's also part of the. If you think about it, that's also part of the or how we have been working in our industry. You know, so. As I said, there is many stereotypes, and I think that double bass is really unknown on that, because really, I tell you, some of my concerts, normal people, as you said, from the public, and they tell you like, oh, well, I never thought a double bass could do that or could, you know, and you are like, well, yeah, it can.
Sure.
I can, and other people can as well. So, like, it's a question to open up to more things. And in my opinion, I think that the industry of classical music would really make that change, opening up not only for two or three instruments, where they take the whole light or limelight, but really to open up not only to double bass, but there is also harp or horn, but to really show the whole potential of what playing an instrument is, and not to stereotype too much into classes. So this
Sure.
is one thing, and this is another thing, and this, and that should be for this. I think that's so wrong. The only thing that has made in the past year is to close our world to the outside world, until we have realized now that we really cannot go on without the outside world. So that's why I'm saying I think coronavirus is one turning point for everyone, for all industries, but especially for ours, which will have to adapt to so many challenges. And I think
Sure.
that's also one of them, not the only one challenge, but definitely is one, like how to open up for the public. Because if you think about it, how many of my students, and I'm talking about 20-year-old, 22-year-old, that do you think they are going to really pay for watching a concert online? They don't think like that, because it's the next generation to mine. I'm 32 now. I am 10 years difference with them, and they are not going to pay for it because they are used to have it in one click.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so how can we
And the value of the whole experience doesn't hold the same weight, I don't think, to younger generations, of getting dressed up, going to, wherever you're going to see the concert, being in the concert hall, whether it's a jazz club or a classical concert hall or something, and being in the environment and listening to it live and hearing the air move off the instruments. Like, it seems like that's not being valued, and that to me is the bummer. Like, because the whole experience of it is really what makes it magical.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for this next generation, that's why I keep investing in education, because we live in such a fast world with internet, with social media, and they even tell me, my own students,
Sure.
just post more videos. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can post more videos. I mean, I can get in my room and post more videos, but really, do you want to only see me posting videos in the room, or going to the next church here in the next corner in Amsterdam, and just record something? Okay, yeah, I can do that, but
Sure.
what about being in the really in the concert hall? Because they just want it immediately. And
You're right.
you are right. I agree with you. That's the bummer. It's really bummer.
And the other problem is what you just said, actually, is they want it immediately, and none of this is immediate. Like, none of this. None of what we've, continue to work so hard at has come immediate. Like, if there was a quicker way, we would have already found it. Nothing's quick, and I think that the attention span is going to be a big hurdle for the students to cross, and teachers, and how to navigate shorter attention spans in person and even in videos.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really important when, for example, when they arrive the first year to my class, I really try to transmit these values, because it's good to make a change and to adapt. But there is certain values about being an instrumentalist, about being a musician, that are really important. As you said, nothing is fast. Right. When they come to the lesson and they ask you, how do you do this with the left hand, and how do you do that? Yeah, it's like when I was your age, I was sitting on my practice room for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours until I get it.
yeah, right. Until I figured it out, and then I was probably wrong. But I had something to show my teacher at the time.
Exactly.
And it took me a while to figure that out.
But I tell you something, Ryan. It is also possible to make them see that, because not everyone reacts in the same way, but some of them, they do. They really do, and they do realize that they actually have to bring you something for the lesson, as you said, because otherwise, if you don't put that thing on their brain, they just keep on going in a very superficial way about what being a bass player is.
Sure.
So this is one thing that is important that players like me and like other people, which we are sort of active in the classical music world today, to keep these values, to of course adapt to the new to the new outside world, because we have to
Right.
adapt. Otherwise, we would just the industry would die.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to keep certain values. Otherwise, how can you inspire people if you don't tell them the whole story?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
You
some of that is
know?
like, um, I mean, on the topic of inspiring people, I think a lot of it is for me, is staying inspired myself. Because
Yeah,
if I'm communicating anything,
yeah,
uh, whether it's old knowledge to me or whatever, like super old fundamentals, to the student, it's not. To the student, I have to make that exciting. So I still have to think of the bass in some way that it's still exciting to me.
yeah,
And it's not just like this old hat that's kind of off to the side that I'm talking about.
yeah.
How do you go about that? How do you go about staying inspired for yourself as a player?
As a player, I'm constantly really looking for new things, new repertoire, and also new technical things. I'm a little bit of a nerd with, for example, yeah, I'm a little bit. I have
Join the
to,
club.
yeah, real nerd of left hand technique, and
Okay.
then I try. Well, I try. No, I do sit in this room where I'm talking to you right now, many hours as well, or
Yeah.
just with my cup of tea, and I try to find new things. Also, what the fact that I actually have to give them something new in the lesson
Mm.
makes me be more active, because I remember when I was only playing, for example, in the orchestra. Well, you sort of like, of course, you practice, because as a principal bass, you have to do a lot of work, but it's not the same as if you have the responsibility of going to the next lesson and showing it to the student. I
Mm.
also get very inspired by their young energy.
Okay.
I sort of like need that, like in a way. I see in many times myself reflected on them, and I
Mm.
know what they are thinking, and this is something really really cool. Also to encourage them, because many of them, they go through all the doubts that we had, like, can I make my living out of music, or can I do this, or I'm going to make it really with music, because it's a really tough career.
How do you answer
So
that question now? I mean, not to sidetrack you from where you what you were talking
yeah,
about, but
how do I
uh,
answer?
how do you answer the question? Can I make a living for music? Because
Mhm.
when we were their age, I'm 38, so I'm just a little older. When we were their age, it wasn't. I mean, it's within the last 10 years, it's changed dramatically.
Yeah, I know that.
Um, yeah, and so I mean, I'm not even. You're in another country and you're playing classical music, so that's all completely different.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how I
No,
would answer it. I'm trying to think how I would answer it. I don't.
Actually, what I answer is like, you are not in the moment to think right now if you are going to make it with the money or not. Don't think about the money now. Now you have to think about getting really good, but
Yeah,
like real good musician.
yeah.
So do
That's
not,
accurate.
do not, do not get too, don't you lose your perspective by
Sure.
the outside noise. If you focus on the outside noise, if your head is like talking to you, because it does talk to all of us. But if you
Oh yeah.
listen, if you do listen too much to this, like all the time, every day, you're just gonna get in a spiral that is just going to unfocus you completely, and you are
Hmm.
there. Really, you are not going to get anything. Then really,
Sure.
you're not going to get anything. And then the second thing is really, do not listen too much to people's opinion. Follow your intuition and go for it. But go
Mm.
for it really with all your strength, with all your heart, with everything, and
Yeah.
and you'll just go for it. But don't. don't stop listening to yourself. You need to
Sure.
listen to yourself because you always know. You
Yeah.
always know. You know.
Yeah,
I think
that was some of the best advice I got. Not even from a teacher, from a musician I used to work with.
yeah.
Somebody I really respected, and that was his thing, man. Just like you always already know, it's already within you. Like what you want to do, what your career is going to be, it's already in you. Like if you just stick to your own whatever that word is, you just stick to yourself. It works out.
Yeah, I was told that when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
My first teacher had a very big impact on me. It was the bass player of the Moscow Virtuosi Orchestra, the
Okay.
principal there. And during the 90s, there was that crisis a big crisis, economical and social crisis in Russia, and many of them they moved to Spain, to the north
Okay.
of northwest. And when I started lessons with him, I was extremely unmotivated because, I didn't know because I wanted to play cello at the beginning. I didn't choose for bass. bass.
You know, when I was reading through your bio, like I had questions about that because you started at 6, and then I saw another video of you explaining the process or like those early formative. So I do want you to talk about that actually when we get there.
Yeah. No, and going back what he said to me, he was such an important. Well, I always say that he really made me not only a bass player, but like really a musician.
Okay.
And
I think that's the mark of a great teacher on the instrument is when they
Yeah.
invest into your musicianship and teach you
Yeah.
how to think and teach you how to listen and conduct yourself as a professional, even for a lesson. Showing up prepared, showing up on time, all those things. I think that's always the best. That's always the best.
Those are the best. And I also love that he was like gasoline for me, really. He was really like
That could go either way, like destructive,
Yeah,
or like really ignited you in a good way, or just burnt your house down. Like that could go either way.
No, because I always wanted to play for him. I admired him so much because
Sure.
I was telling him in the lessons when I was a kid, like, I am going to get as good as you, and he was answering me back, you're going to get even better than me.
Oh, great! That's great.
He was saying that those things to me, and you cannot imagine. I mean, as I said, I'm 32 now, but you guys can't imagine those words, what impact had on me when I was a kid, because I was
huge.
still a kid.
Yeah.
And yeah,
is he still alive?
No, unfortunately not anymore.
That's sad.
For me, it was a big heartbreak, but
I bet.
yeah, but he's been actually the only person who actually, really said that to me. And before I left, when I was 18, I left to the Netherlands, and before I left, he said to me, never stop listening to your intuition.
Yeah.
What you already know, never. And then he said, just let them talk, but do not listen. He said that.
Man, that's just great advice for life. Just let them talk. Don't listen. Just stick to yourself and stay on your path.
Yeah, it was a big I think because of the age, I was, very, very, very young. So those words, they really stick with me till today, and I think they will stick forever. And I want to give the same theme to my students because they will face many, many, many situations in their life, not only professional, but also personal life. And to face also many personal situations in your life also makes you a greater musician and a greater artist. So you need to live. You need to live.
That relationship between the artistic life and what you do, I mean, for us on the bass and everything that happens when there's not a bass around, it's funny how it's all the same. Like whatever you're showing up with, And whatever you're bringing to your musical life, like that's the same thing that's happening in your personal life, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it took me, I don't know, I think I started to understand that a little bit better in my early 20s. But then, like, thinking through a lot of just musical principles and musicianship principles, and I started to realize the humanity in music then, and how it's just so connected. And I think music was kind of the impetus for learning about how to be better as a person, because I could think about it in a musical way, and then I just had to apply it when there wasn't a bass around.
Yeah.
But it was all the same thing, and I think those are strong things to tell other younger students,
Yeah,
because
I totally agree
that's
with.
super important stuff.
When they ask me about, oh, how did you get that, or how did you arrive to that, and I said, well, life has had many things, many moments for me. Like, by instance, you were just saying that, but I'm the youngest of three brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the only girl as well. And but unfortunately, for example, in my early 20s, I lost one brother, and it's really, to have your first experience, for example, when someone dies, when someone so close as a brother goes, especially because I was extremely close to my brother. Something in me inside died with him.
Yeah.
That was a very powerful experience, I have to say, as well.
Of
And
course.
it really changed me a lot, also as an artist, as a musician, because it was unexpected. And then, you also change as a person a lot, how you feel things, and your filter especially changed a lot. And it happened to me in a very young age because I was 20. Mm-hmm. So I try to tell them, like, look, practice, be at your best, always give your best, because life will pay you back. But also, very important, live your life. Live your life. You have to live your good moments. You have to live your sad moments, your horrible moments. You need to live when you have money. You need to live when you're completely broke and you don't have money to go to the supermarket. I have lived all that. I have lived all these things.
Sure.
So, and I still live many of them, and I hope many more. But, I think that's a very important part on how to develop a musician. You really have to throw them there into life,
Yeah.
That's where they really grow. That's where they really grow. Because if you see, I understand you have students as well, but if you see, sometimes they come to the lesson expecting a lot of protection, they ask you everything, like, oh, this is happening and that's happening. And at that age, you really need to encourage them. And I do try to really throw themselves out there, and that's important. That's scary, because it's very scary to throw yourself there. But I think it's a very, very, very good point to, for them to develop, to really develop.
Sure. Yeah, and I think also a couple things. One, specifically on students developing, them understanding and being aware of that they can fix it. Unless it's something like really, maybe the question was too far advanced and they need to roll it back, a little bit, and like, all right, we'll get there, hold on. But I think I hope to lead students to help them so that they can find the answers on their own.
Yeah.
So I always try to ask leading questions, but eventually they need to know that they can see it in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah.
So by them talking through it and them answering the questions, they'll learn it themselves.
Yeah.
And then I think that's then, like, those little light bulb moments go off, and like, oh, okay, now I get it, and it all kind of comes out of their mouth, and there's a different relationship then to the information, instead of just somebody who's older telling them this is how you do it.
Yeah, and they are very used to that, because the teaching system, they come to the lesson, and I tell them as well, first of all, you always have to bring me something new to the lesson. I don't want to hear the same thing as the last lesson, because it's not interesting for you and it's not interesting for me. So just really search for it. And for all these things that you're saying right now, that I completely agree, you really need to throw them out there play, like for example, play. I remember when I arrived in Barcelona, when I won the professorship there, they
Mhm.
were playing only twice a year a concert. I said like, no, how can you expect somebody to develop because of course you're going to be your whole life on stage. How can you expect them not to be afraid of the stage if you don't put them out there to play
Yeah.
every month, every 2 weeks, but they have to do it because otherwise they will arrive to their first audition or first concert, and of course you need to deal with a lot of um, psychological pressure. I mean, being on the stage is really not easy. But it's better that you teach them to love the stage by being
Sure.
on it, than rather than not being on it and fear the stage, because then you are not creating anything than a trauma, really.
Right. Right.
So
Right. Then they're just always scared of it. Um, when you went or when you do go through traumatic events, like you mentioned earlier,
yeah.
what's the relationship you have to music at that point? Do you really dive in and kind of process your emotions through music, specifically on the bass, or do you like step away from actually playing the bass and just absorb different music? That's kind of
Mhm.
my thing. I don't always play. I just
Yeah.
listen a lot. Like
Yeah.
I really get into listening a lot more when I'm processing some emotional stuff. Um,
Mhm.
except for unless I'm playing with people. Like if I'm playing with people, it's great. But practice time, sometimes my head's too all over the place to focus for practice. So the
Mhm.
practice is absorbing and really getting in touch with some of that stuff so that when I play, I can have something to draw from to get it out.
For me, I really had to. It was a very transformative process.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit like the phoenix, the bird, yeah, that gets burned and then it comes out from the
Oh, the
ashes.
Phoenix.
For
Yeah.
me,
Okay.
phoenix, yeah. So for me, it was a small death and rebirth
Mm-hmm.
again. When someone and I have also students that lost their father or their mother through maybe
Sure.
cancer or something like that. Um, I tell them as well. Look, I also went through something very very hard. For me,
Yeah.
it was very hard because when I lost my brother, he was also very young and he died suddenly. We were not expecting it. He was a healthy person, so of course it hits you harder because you don't expect it, and also because
Sure.
you are young and he was young, so you would never expect that something like that can happen. But things that things do happen in life. They do happen,
Yes.
and you have to learn that as well. Earlier or later, it will happen. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully, if things happen earlier, there'll be less of them later, and they just kind of you learn them
exactly.
instead of it just earlier and later. You hope they slow down.
I think the same way. So for
Yeah.
me, it happened very early, and how it was for me. Look, at that age, I was sort of a bit rebellious. I have to say, I have a bit of a rebel character, and because I wanted things my way, and because I had a very strong conception of how I wanted things,
Sure.
uh, and that like changed my plans because it shaped me.
Yeah.
And basically, then I started to think that I was not useful as a musician to anything. That was like, let's
Oh
say, this
wow.
spiral thing. So I
Sure.
thought, like, I should quit bass. I should quit being a musician, and I should just go and help people in in a how to say it, ONGJ, like how to say it in English, like not like charity, like really help people.
Oh sure.
I was thinking like I'm not useful enough, like with all this what I'm really giving. So that was the first. I think that was my first identity crisis there,
But did
like
you
really a big
um
one. Stop
yeah,
playing,
yeah.
playing.
But also like
Uh,
I think musicians are that. I think musicians in the world are kind of not to
yeah,
insult anybody doing any other work that is in a job of service or giving back to the
yeah,
community, but
sure.
we definitely do. I mean, it's because specifically for me there's times of heavy emotion I have to process, I go to music. Like that's the rescue. That's the that's the nurse I'm going to see, or that's the
Or
doctor. It's music. Music is this healing aspect in my life, and so is the bass. And as musicians, I think we're offering that to them.
yeah, but do you might I thought that later. At the beginning,
Yeah,
I biggest crisis ever.
sure.
So until I found myself back, it took a while, really,
Okay.
to
Yeah.
to
Hey,
go for it. And how did I find myself back? Actually, it was really listening to to the words that my very first teacher, Vital Pasevich, the one from Moscow Virtuoso, said to me, and it's like this thing that he was saying: do not listen to the outside noise,
yeah.
to your inner demons. So
Right.
I think for that moment that it was so difficult to manage emotionally something like that. Actually,
It's also a
the,
rough age to
yeah, very
manage
rough.
the law. I
I
mean, you're still figuring out who you are in the world, and
yeah,
now you have to. Oh wow! Then you see like the futility of life, so to speak. That everything can change that quick,
yeah,
and that's a huge. I've never had to go through that, thankfully. I
for me
lost
it was a huge
a
slap
dear
on
friend.
the face, a huge
Say
one.
that again.
It was a huge slap on the face of reality
Sure,
for me
sure. I can
at that
imagine. Yeah,
age. So, of course, as you said, it's a very rough age, and especially if you are, very passionate and very eager of your things, it takes a while to be back on track.
yeah.
But yes, I said at the beginning it was like non-acceptance at all of anything, not even of myself. So I didn't accept myself. I didn't accept what happened. I didn't accept anything. So to find acceptance, first of all, you have to go for no acceptance. So once you go through that, then you really start to, well, you do see the world in a different light, I tell you, after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I went back and I thought like, well, what the hell was I thinking? No, I am a musician. I love music. This is what I want to do. And from that moment, my connection with music and with the instrument, with double bass, it became so strong. So strong, and that was really the big peak of my career started there. It
Mm,
really, like, it went just up and up and up and up and up on those years, really, one after the other one.
that's great.
Crazy.
Did you obviously like making that commitment to your career,
Yeah.
so being so intentional and so deliberate about it
Mm.
as an adult versus um, you had started playing when you were really young, and you're just kind of playing along the way. But then as a young adult, when you're like, no, this is what I'm doing, understanding more about the world in a very adult way by having lost your brother and like having to
Yeah.
deal with some heavy things, like all of a sudden that decision, that makes sense to me that the career started taking off because the decision was like a real decision. Like
Oh, very conscious.
it was like this is happening now, and this is not just something I do that I've been excelling at, and I'm just gonna kind of ride the wave. Like this is I'm specifically choosing it, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of power in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Let's go back to I want to have you talk about you. So you started playing at 6 years old. That is a very young age. Um, to play double bass. So I'm gonna let you tell this story.
Okay, it's a funny one, really.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
um, so basically, my parents are not musicians. As I said,
Okay.
my dad is a university professor of Latin and Greek, so all
Hmm.
languages. And my mom does like accountancy for the government, as government official. I don't know how to say that really in English, but like there is a specific term in Spanish for it. But let's say
Okay.
that she works for taxes
Okay.
in the office.
Government officials, fine.
Government official.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're good with that one. Yeah.
Okay. So, but both of them, especially my mom, they love music and they love classical music, and my mom played piano, but she never, because of the circumstances, like she never went for a music career. She did something
Sure.
else, and but she always had this thing with music, and I was always like in the house dancing, and some musicians maybe like would come to the house because she had some friends musicians, and I would like, they gave me the first instrument they gave me was a violin, and I always hated it. I hated like the thing of like putting it on your neck, and I was telling the friend of my mother who is a musician, I was telling like, I find this posture like so horrible. I cannot like understand why people would do this, with their lives. Like really,
Right.
just like twist your neck and put your instrument there. This is so unnatural. I was really like this is not for me. So they present me Chinese violin, like it was half plastic, and I was playing it like a cello.
Okay.
Like I really didn't want to put anything on my neck, really, or something that would like block me. So I started to say to the friend of my mom, like, I think I really want to like play cello because it's like so beautiful, and beautiful melodies, and so romantic melodies, and I was really into cello. So I went to my mom and I said like, look, you gotta sign me up for the music school. And I was at that moment 5, and she said like, no, you are too young. You have to wait until you are 6. But I was incredibly stubborn, and I even escaped kindergarten once just because she said no to me, that I couldn't. Because I thought that she was not taking me serious. I thought that she was not taking me serious. I thought like,
You had to
what
prove
the
yourself.
hell? Yeah. I said, well, why can't you inscribe me now? Why do I have to wait 1 year more? I wasn't like really getting it, so I tried to make some kind of protest at home.
Just like, school happens on my terms, Mom. That's how this is working. I go when I want to. I'm not falling in line with whatever the government says. I'm going now. So they can all just come to what I say as a 5-year-old. That's hilarious.
I wasn't really getting like, what's the difference between this year and the next?
Sure.
Like,
No, it does make sense. I don't know why it's 6.
In my mind was really like that.
Yeah.
So like when I remember when I turned 6, I turned in August, in 7th of August, and I remember the 8th of August we went straight to. She took me straight to talk to the music school, to the teacher, and then I did my entrance exam in September. And I was so excited because finally I could play cello.
Yeah.
And I don't know how is the system in the United States, but like in Spain at that moment, I'm talking about the 90s.
Yeah.
So basically, you were getting in a list, alphabetical order, followed by the first letter of your surname. So I'm Martinez, as first surname. So the M is quite at the end of the alphabet. So
it's kind of halfway, but way different than B. Like B's right up front.
Yeah,
that's a big jump.
Botana is because Spanish people, we have 2 surnames, father and mother. So Martinez is my father and Botana is my mother. So I felt like that would have, to use my mother's surname would have been much useful at that moment.
Yeah.
But of course, like the rules were like that, and when I arrived there, I stood in line like for 40 minutes at least. There was a long line, and when my turn arrived, my mother and my father were there with me, and I said like, well, yeah, which instrument would you like to play? I said, cello. I want to take cello. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, the person that was in front of you just took the last place for cello. I was like, oh no.
the worst.
So what is left? Because I really wanted to be in the music school, and there was left bassoon, horn, and double bass.
None of those seem to be shocking that those were the ones left. Like, I'm not really shocked by any of those. I'm surprised trombone wasn't still available, actually.
No, trombone was not available, but bassoon, horn, and double bass. And then my mother said to me, like, look, just choose horn because she loves horn. She really loves horn. She's, like, super fan of that instrument. And she said, like, look, I have to run now because I got to go to work, but I leave you here with your father. And but choose horn because you are gonna love it. It's like, golden and stuff like that, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, she just tried to sell me the instrument that she liked. Yeah. And I stayed there with my dad. My mom left, and then my dad said to me, because my dad hates wind instruments. He doesn't. So he stared there.
I like that he's trying to undermine your mom. Like, that's what's going on in my mind right now. Is your dad's like, no, that's not happening at all. One of the others.
Can't imagine what he said to me. So I was standing there with my father, like, I said, like, okay, Dad, so I'm going to choose horn, and then maybe next year I'm just going to change to cello, like something like that. Yeah. Just going to choose horn because Mom said. And then he looked at me and he said, like, well, you know what's going to happen if you choose horn, right? I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen? Well, I mean, your lips are going to get deformed, and then nobody will be able to have a boyfriend because nobody would like to kiss you.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of guilt for a 6-year-old. That is a lot of guilt.
Look,
I'm just like imagining like your whole personal life is never going to go anywhere because and as a 6-year-old, you decided to play horn for a year. It's hilarious.
He said, it sounds really, really strong in English, but in Spanish it's softer, but like textually he said that like your lips are going to get so bad, like so ugly that nobody would like to kiss you. Like nobody's going to kiss you afterwards. And I was like, in that moment in the brain, in my mind of a 6-year-old, like I imagined myself like a monster suddenly.
Yeah, right. Just some ogre who's unwanted by anybody if you choose horn.
Exactly. I looked at him like that and so like, oh, right, okay. So what did you think about the choice of double bass? Because I mean, like, let's think about it. It's just a big cello, right? Like I can manage that.
It's the same as cello, just bigger. So why not? It's the same.
I said that. So why not? Like, it's just a little bit bigger, but I mean, it looks like pretty similar to me. So like, I think I will manage it with that one, I was like, it's okay. And so like, yeah, I think, my father said to me that, I think that's a great choice.
So now, okay, at 6, so would they give you, like a half size?
They gave me a half size. I am quite tall, so yeah, they gave, I didn't start with cello. So, because some of my colleagues were starting with cello, but adapted to double bass strings and stuff like that. But no, they gave me a half size. But at the beginning, I was really unmotivated because the instrument, actually, with all the love of the world to the teacher that was at that moment in that school. Yeah. He was not a bass player. He was actually first a cello player, but then he decided to switch to double bass. But he was like kind of doing it, for not really like he was not always a bass player. There is a difference with people who
he adapted to the instrument after the fact, but it's not like he doesn't have the spirit of a bass player or like the passion for the instruments or anything.
No, I think that he really hated double bass. He is he's a great person, but like he really didn't like double bass. He was just doing it because it was his job, but like he really didn't like it. And so I started to get really unmotivated because when I would arrive to the lessons, we would just sit on the table and we would just do theory,
Okay.
but seriously about the instrument, like, okay, this is the E string and that's the A string and this is that. And what I wanted actually was some action. I really wanted to play. I wanted to be a
Sure.
performer because I was
Yeah.
really in love with that. I was really, really, I was so attracted to the fact of being on stage.
Right.
So, of course, when I was going to the lessons, like, I was getting that. I was not getting that. I was really not getting that. And I was like, wait. Like, I made all these protests at home, that I want to go to music school and I want to do this and I want to do that. And now suddenly I'm here and I want to get out of here.
All right. This isn't what I signed up for.
This is what I signed up for. So what started to happen is that when I would have to go to my double bass lesson, anything of my body would hurt. So my finger would hurt, my tummy would hurt, my foot would hurt.
You're just stressed out, looking for ways to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even once, like, I told my mom I have fever and I was putting the thermometer on the lamp so it would get like. Really, while she was not looking, I was doing this, so I would pretend I have a fever. Like, I really arrived to do this stuff until she catch me one day, and then she catch me like putting the thermometer there. Like I'm just feeling
That's
so
all right.
bad.
Hey, you're creating the alibi. Like, good. Like, you're going all the way in. Like, you're not just telling a lie. You're actually creating a believable alibi.
Yeah, the whole believable thing. So she catch me that day, and she said, like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, nothing." And then, my mom, who is, someone really very, very smart.
Yeah.
She said, like, what's going on? Like, you were like insisting so much, like, in going to music school. Like, you gave us a hard time, a headache, really, with like going to music school, and now you just try to escape it all the time, and you don't want to go to bass lessons, you don't want to do this. And I thought, like, Mom, I'm just so bored.
Yeah.
I'm just so incredibly bored. Like, I sit there in that table, like, I know the strings of the instrument, I know this is the bridge, this is the head, these are the tuning machines, and this and that, and I play long notes, and this is not what I was signing for.
I mean, how many weeks had it been of just going over the parts of the bass?
I was like doing that for the first 6 months, really.
First 6 months? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like 20 minutes. Like, how much is there to talk about?
Nothing. And then, we would, he, as I said, like, he's a great person, but like, teaching was not like, he just had that job because, in Spain you can like apply for a government job, and that was a government school. So, once you are inside the government system, you cannot lose that job unless the whole system collapse. Okay. So basically, like, he was a fun person in the sense that, you could talk to him and like we would like get out and play football or whatever. But I really wanted to play bass.
Yeah. Right, not football.
Not football, yeah. So for some of my colleagues was fine because maybe, they just didn't decide it as strongly as I wanted, like to do music. But yeah, it was 6 months, and then I started to believe that this is like so extremely boring. And then my mother, at that point, she said, like, okay, I was telling her, like, because she asked me, like, what is the problem? What's going on the lessons? And what do you do? And so, like, well, I mean, like, I sit there, but I know the parts of the bass and stuff like that. But, like, there is no action going on. I don't play, like, nice pieces, or I don't really, like, have any fun. Also, for example, the thing of the concerts, like, we were not going on the stage often, and then we would have to do one concert per year, and that would be really not enough, and I would not enjoy it because I didn't like it. I was, even if I had a very strong personality, I was extremely shy as a kid, very, very shy. It took me, it was very hard for me to open up for people, very, very hard. And, well, yeah, I mean, that whole experience of like going on stage, that I was not doing it, in the whole year. Then suddenly getting out, the first time I went on stage, I went on blackout. So I had, I was supposed to play some long notes, and I ran out of the stage. And I remember that was my first concert. I completely ran out of the stage, and I
how
was
old? Still 6, or were you 7 now?
six.
Okay,
So that
still
was
6.
the very first one, and I was so pissed off with my mother and with my brothers as well, because they laughed at me because the scene was really funny. It was just funny, but for me it was really not funny because
No, it was traumatic for you.
Not traumatic, but I think my pride was really hurt because inside me I really wanted to play the instrument, and I really wanted to be a musician. I was like fighting hard to go to music school with my family, and then suddenly I got like really boring lessons, and I was not really trained to go on a stage, and then I had to face the stage, and it was not nice because I didn't know how to behave on stage. That was the problem,
Sure.
So yeah, I was really really angry because for me it was like I lost my battle, and I was a bad loser really when I was a kid. So my mother listened to all what I said to her, and then she decided that she will, talk to some friends, musicians, and like try to find a solution. And then she also said to me, look, if you don't like it, you can just quit now. You can, it's no problem. Just don't worry about it, I thought, like, well, I don't know. Let's just try maybe to find another teacher. And if I don't like also that one, then, I'm going to quit because I just don't like it. Right. So then when I had the first lesson with Beatles, I was extremely unmotivated, and I really hated somehow the instrument. It's like if the energy of my previous teacher had passed on me that,
Right.
And he said, like, come on, play something, like just play something I want to see. And I was like, very, I will just play for whatever. And then he said to me, like, okay, and now play as if you are imagining. He was saying, like, if you imagine a big elephant or a big butterfly, like open it up. And then he was saying all these stories to me. He was really telling a story.
Yeah.
And that got me. And that the game of my life started there. Because I would play something, he would give me, for example, I really love the approach that he had on technique, by instance, no? Because he gave me a lot of technique while I was a kid. But, he gave me technique, and I had to make a draw of what I imagined with the technique. So it was not really like just do studies of Simandl. No, I used to love the book of Simandl studies because with each study I would draw something, feel something, tell a story, and that was really great. And he really got me. He really got on my mind. Inside.
That's pretty. How old were you at this point?
That's so I started with him with 7. So
7. That's pretty powerful things for a 7-year-old. To be able to channel musically, but good on him for understanding that you're at this age where your imagination is going wild, and how he's just immediately knew how to connect that through music instead of trying to be like, settle down and do what I say, settle down, do what I say. Like, he really kind of met a 7-year-old where they're at. That's pretty amazing.
I think he read me also very well because I was a kid that would get bored very easy. So I was very, very, very active.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit for too long. I couldn't do something for too long. I like really, if it wouldn't be interesting, then why would I do it? I was a bit like that. So I think like he really got like, he knew my how you say it, like my like the buttons to push me. And I
Right.
got that very well because, of course, like by telling a story, by drawing a story, which with each etude, and which with each exercise or technical exercise or piece, or telling a story. Yeah, that was the, as I said, that was really the game of my life started there, because
Uh,
yeah, I started to feel that I was really building something up, that I was really giving something special out there. I was
yeah.
creating something, and that got me big time, really big time.
And
So
now, as a professional, when you play a piece of music over and over again, and while you're working it out, or something you've been playing for a while, when you when you address that piece of music again,
mhm.
how's the story? So is it, are you trying to tell a new version of the same story? Are you looking for new corners and new details within the story? How does the story continue to
I understand.
elaborate,
I
even though it's
understand.
the same piece?
But Ryan, it cannot be the same piece, because my life changes every year, every month, and
Sure.
every time I go back to something, it's not the same. If I have to play now Potesini Granduo Concertante, which I did last year with Czech Philharmonic, if I have to play it now again, it's not going to be the same than what I did in Prague, in
Sure.
Czechoslovakia. It's not going to be the same concert, because it's impossible. That's
Right.
impossible. And it's going to be a different. It's
All
going to
new
be a
story?
different approach. It's going to be a different approach on the story, and it's going to
Okay.
be a mature story. I think it's like the good wine. When you get a piece, when you play a piece for the first time, it's still a very young wine.
Yeah.
When you get it back and back and back, yeah, you know the music, but it's never the same piece again and again and again. That doesn't happen to me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't get that feeling. What I get is I get more introspection on the piece. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. That's what I was curious about. Because I
Yeah.
know for me playing jazz, like it can be the same tune, but
Uh,
now maybe all the other guys in the band are different since the last time I played this tune, or whatever. There's so many factors because that music is so much is left up to what we decide.
hmm
Um,
But
I was curious.
I cannot play. I'm someone that I cannot play the same twice. Really.
Okay, so you're bringing those like, I don't know if improvisation is the right word, but it seems like it is. You're bringing a newness and a spontaneity. That's what I'm looking for. You're bringing a spontaneity to the same piece of music each time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
And also, for example, I do warm up a lot with back streets.
Okay.
Um, I tell you, every day, or like when I get the bass bag, try to play first one or second one or third, four, five, six, whatever, any of the streets or any of the movements of the streets. I tell you, every time I get back the bass, is never the same piece. I always get new feeling, new story, new or more mature, especially
Sure.
with bass. You need to have a certain maturity to present a suite, musical maturity and personal maturity as well. So that, and also with, I think with all the pieces, and even when I do technique as well, I'm constantly, it's good to be like a surgeon of the double bass. You know what I mean? Like to go so deep, so deep, so deep, so deep on it,
Yeah.
of your level of feeling and of understanding, that it really a whole world opens to you every time you start to play.
How
Yeah.
do you
It's
communicate
never,
that to students? Because I think once we find how we can access that within ourselves, it's not something we know how to do it, but I don't know if I would know how to describe some of that. How would you describe it to students to get them to learn how to get in emotionally that connected to the instrument and what they're playing?
Yeah, I think once again, everyone is every student is different from one to another, but yeah, I do try to open up my emotional world about what I'm feeling in that precise moment, or what I see, what I really
Hmm.
see in my inner world, because it's important for a musician to have a huge inner world, so
Yes.
that you can dig very deep on it, and those are, as I said to them, I always say those are deep waters. I say to
Yeah.
them, hey, playing, I say, when you play, when you go and play, and when you touch the instrument, it should be like a click. It's like if they drop you from up there and then you fall into a lake under the water. That's how I feel when I play.
Yeah.
It's definitely not reality, it's my own world.
Right.
But I tell them exactly this, like you gotta arrive to that feeling, and in the moment that you arrive to that feeling, well, it's another dimension, and
Yeah.
that's really where, when things start to happen, you know.
Yeah.
And they do, many of them they do, and then the most satisfying thing for me is when they come to the next lesson and they tell you, I discovered this and this and this and this. I think that's the whole, magic about that, is to keep a musician always discovering, always learning, always discovering. And for that, of course, you need to have that depth inside yourself. Otherwise,
Sure.
you can also sit in the office. And with all the respect, my mother works in the office, but you can also do that, and you can keep doing it. But okay, every day will be the same. But if you want to be an artist, you need to have a different perception.
But
Uh,
I think it sounds
thing
like you're also like really setting the tone for that environment, because you know, as you said, you're a nerd about the left hand technique. You're always searching, so you automatically are setting this tone for all your
for
students.
them, absolutely.
Uh, for them, so like you're bringing this energy uh, to the lesson yourself, an excited, investigative, curious relationship with the bass that I think is
Yeah,
what's
because
the
I
word?
was given that. Well,
Contagious. Yeah, that's amazing.
I was
Uh,
I was also given that, so I give them what I was given.
yeah, that's fantastic.
And I really, as I said, I had that one teacher that really marked me because I was very young. But then there's been also other teachers that gave me a lot. Of course, I had a very good, let's say, the basement of the house, yeah, which this guy gave to me. It was really strong, but later I had other players that also had a huge impact as well. So
Sure,
yeah.
sure. What are some of your other favorite takeaways? Like the first major teacher, was your second teacher telling you that you're gonna go on to play better than him. Like that was a major takeaway for you from
Uh,
that
uh,
experience. What were some other ones?
No, that was really that one. And then, but then it was different. That it was not like that, but it was more about. It's a good question. How to put it? It was more about. I didn't think like at that moment. I was thinking like, I'm just gonna be like better than you and better than that. I think when I was older, like from 18 on, what I wanted really was to find myself as a player. So
Yeah,
I was not focusing myself like I want to be better than you, or I want to play as good as you, or even better than you. I was more like what can I learn, what can I get from you that it will help me to
uncover yourself.
tell the
Yeah,
story that I really want to tell, and like to build my music identity, my artistical identity. What can I get from you that would make this stronger and better?
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
it was more like that. It was more that approach, I think, afterwards. Uh,
How do you feel that that's turned out looking back on those years, and now you're a professional and playing, you're in the principal chair.
mhm.
How where do you feel about your artistic identity right now? Do you feel like you're you and you're still growing within yourself, or there's still some aspects where you're looking to learn who you are? And now I understand the question's completely nebulous because we're always growing and changing. So in 5 years, if you said like, yeah, right now I'm definitely me, in 5 years you'll be like, yeah, but I've grown this much in 5 years. But just for right now's sake, how do you feel about the process?
I feel like now I'm really very solid, way more
Good.
than I was, really.
Sure.
So I feel very, very, very confident. I feel very
Good.
confident. Of course, as you said, yeah, we can always grow, and I always search for it. But I
Yeah.
feel I am in a point where I feel this maturity that I didn't feel before, right now, and it has happened recently. I have to tell you. I think when I turned like 30, 31.
Really?
Yeah,
Was that like kind of hitting that
yeah,
age landmark or like crossing that line, like that really
yeah.
stepped things up into some new levels of maturity?
Yeah, also because my life, where my life settled as well, like,
Mm-hmm.
getting the position and concerts and stuff, like everything
Sure.
went, So also,
It's like now
that,
it's adult. Like now it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
now you're an adult. Crap.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
This sucks.
that's true. I mean, but it's true. Like, no kidding. Like
Yeah.
now I do feel like, okay. Like before it was there was a struggle, like a lot of struggle. Oh my God, like really
Sure.
so much, so much. Not only personal struggle, economical struggle, uh, social struggle. Really, it was not an easy road. Not at all. No, it was not like we say in Spanish. It was not a road of roses.
Yeah, sure. No, I
Pretty,
think
pretty
the
much.
translation still works in English. Yeah, like I understand.
Pretty much the opposite. But yeah, after that struggle to really come out to balance, to a balance.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
But that struggle though, and like, I mean, I think when you always look back on your life, like it wouldn't have turned out this way if it had not gone through that process. The process sucked in real
uh,
time. Like while you're in it, the process sucks. The process sucks. But when you look back on it after you get out of it, it's just like, yeah, okay, that sucked. But it kind of this is the only way this might have happened is to go that way.
I think I needed it.
Yeah,
That needed to happen. That I think like I believe that that was the plan sort of for me. Okay, like
hmm,
things had to happen in my life. Many things happened in my life, and yeah, in my personal and in my professional life, a lot happened. Like it was
sure.
like living 40 years. In 10 years, I lived 40 years.
Yeah, I know.
Really, yeah, it was that intense. It was that intense. But I
Sure.
needed that. I really needed that in my life to come out with what is today. Absolutely, and I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a friend tell me one time that I've lived like 5 lifetimes.
Yeah.
By the time I was 35, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. And it's and one of the
So you
beautiful
understand,
things.
right?
I absolutely understand. I
You
absolutely
understand.
understand. That's probably another 8-hour podcast for us to really talk about what it's been for you and what it's been for me. Um, but I think the understanding the loyalty of music through all of those things, and that I mean that's with the exception of my family, that's my oldest relationship is the bass,
Yeah.
and there's a there's a dedication to it because it's always been there for me, and there's a I think a deep connection to it for the same reason, and
Yeah.
and it makes you want to show up for it, as if it's
Okay.
a person, as if it has an intention, as if it has a will. Um, I kind of personify the instrument sometimes, and I want to show
Yeah.
up for it to be
Yeah.
better, and me to be better with it, and all those things. Um,
Yeah.
Going through all that crap in the world, like, has definitely honed my perspective
I,
on music and what's necessary and what's not as I learn those things outside of music.
hmm Do you think? I often think that musicians, we get to see the best of society and the worst of society. But
I think both of them are in every artist.
yeah,
I think we have the power to create and enrich people's lives and be a part of something that's
yeah,
always bigger than ourselves in music, and that's amazing. And then within us, I know for me that there's some dark corners in there.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. For me too, for everyone, really. I mean,
yeah,
like otherwise, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
all,
think artists are. I think it's yeah. We do get to be a part of both and experience both. And I think artists are typically the first ones that are willing to go there within themselves to experience life to each extreme.
we, yeah, we put
Yeah.
ourselves out there without bulletproof, right? Without
Right.
that's true.
Right.
I agree. It's true.
Yeah,
That's
it's
absolutely true. But that's the beauty of it. I think without living these kind of experiences, bad ones and good ones, how can you really tell something when you play if you really haven't lived so much?
sure.
So yeah.
All right. So that was my talk with Uxia. I really like what she had to say about like having this inner life and this really big capacity within yourself to have this well to pull from when creating art, because I think that's so true, and I think that's so important to um, be able to identify with a lot of things and really be able to go there within yourself and challenge yourself to experience new things. Not only externally in the world, but internally, and really push yourself that way to grow emotional for your emotional capacity and your emotional awareness and all that stuff, because that will all always that will always all that's what I'm trying to say. It will always all inform your playing, especially if you're playing things where you really get to put your fingerprint on it. Now, I understand that we don't always get that luxury, but when we do, and we get the chance to put our fingerprint on it, it'll come from a really rich place of our own personal humanity. That's the best, man. That's the best, is really being able to connect on a personal level to what you're doing, and then when everybody's doing it, man, it's powerful. That's powerful stuff. It's powerful stuff. All right, folks, that's her story. I'm sticking to it. I will catch you on the next one in a minute.